Hey, how's it going? Let's just see if stream's up and running. Yeah, nice. Hey, so welcome back to another in the series of 360 uh 360 fun, our 360 Hangouts. We do these streams every week and we look at things that can improve immersive renders in Unreal Engine 360 immersive content. I've got a cool tip this week. Um, hey Chipko, nice to see you. Just to note, this is also available to watch in our Discord as well, and you can jump in with any questions there as well. But yeah, feel free to ask questions on the YouTube stream as well. Got a cool tip this week. If you've seen the previous few streams, I've been trying to figure out this kind of HUD drone with cool sort of old school dash cam HUD thing going on. It's been kind of cool. I still haven't been able to work out how to take record this drone blueprint properly. Have been giving it a good go, but instead, what I've just figured out, and I want to see how far this goes, but I think I've worked out some interesting stuff for making particles work better for 360 rendering. So I just want to share this tip quickly this time because I think it's good to document, good to note down. Um, yeah, so I'm going to show the problem first, which is this. So when you're in the middle of a particle system, you might get this kind of thing where particles are chopped off at the edges. Um, and there's a few things you can do if you're just making a simple render, but this is most common in tiled renders. So just to explain the tiling system and why this kind of causes this. So for our ultra high res stuff, where it starts getting really, really high res, you will want to split your jobs into split your faces into multiple jobs, because what this will do, it will stop you from getting an Unreal Engine crash. Say you're rendering at a really high resolution, like however high you want, 12K plus, 12K and up. What you can use, so I'm just in the movie render queue settings here, so just show you. Let's start from the top. Got a camera in my scene. I've got a particle system, which looks like looks like looks like this. Great. And I want to render that in 360 at really high resolution. So made a level sequence for this level here, and got this right here, and I'm gonna got a little bit of camera motion as well as the particle system progresses. So we've got movement of the 360 camera through a quite complex particle system, and we want to render it at really high resolution. So I'm going to go in here, and what we can do is we can split up not only the 6 faces that make up the 360 map, which I can just demonstrate quickly here. So, these faces, the kind of position of each of these faces can cause, differences in what each of these cameras sees. And with particles, that can be kind of tricky. But not only that, as you get to really high resolution, what we allow you to do is split up even those faces into smaller parts. So tiling within faces. So I've just set 2 tiles, 2 by 1 per face, so that each face is split in half, essentially. And what I've said is we can delete the intermediate files. So what that means is it's going to write each face to a file, and then it's going to do a final stitch pass of stitching all of those faces together. And what this means is there's less stress on the GPU per face that it's putting out. So that's great. And then what you do is generate these jobs. So I've got my directory set. Let's just set a new directory actually. Let's do test2 or whatever. Yeah, so it's right into there. Let's do less frames as well. Do 3 frames this time, just to show you what happens when you render these ultra high res. I'll keep it this low, but what this means is you can go as high as you want if you split it down into enough tiles. But what we do is we generate jobs here. And so to keep the load off of the GPU, it's actually rendering each of these smaller faces, these smaller tiles, as its own job. So it's going to go from frame 0 to 100, or 0 to 3 in this case, for each of these jobs. So what this leads to is if you're rendering particle systems, I'll just hit render for this. If you've got random particles, it's going to start each time, and they're going to spawn in random places each time. So when you're rendering super high resolution, the drawbacks of this can be immense. You might want to, like, if you haven't got your particles deterministic, you might have to re-render the whole scene every single time, or else the particles won't spawn in the same place each time, So this can cause like massive bloats in render time, in production time. So this is just really important to think about this from the start, really. Let's see, we've got just a little bit of spawning here. So can we see any of these problems already? Yeah, so you can already see that these are cut off here because the spawn points of these particles were random. So I managed to fix this for this particle system. This is still really fresh, so what I kind of want to do on this stream is just test this kind of thing and see if it truly does kind of fix this. I've got no face blend here, so you do see seams around the place, but they're not based on the actual particles themselves. As you see here, even when it crosses over these, if you had a face blend, that would smooth that out even more. Pretty sure. It's just looking a whole lot better than the other system. So I think what I've got here is a method for actually fixing this. I'm seeing a bit of this down here, but why don't we do another render of this with some face blend. But first I'll show you this trick that obviously at least massively improved this. And maybe there's more to it, but I think this is kind of quite a simple little checkbox that actually fixes this. You just have in your particle system here, you can just search determinism. I think it might be just under emitter. And yeah, determinism. So instead of the particles spawning totally randomly, it's deterministic where they spawn. So they're always going to spawn in the same place each time. It's kind of like they've got a seed, like a Minecraft seed. You've got a number that determines, even if it looks random, it's going to be the same every time it runs. So yeah, we saw that particle system that massively improves that. Let's see what happens if we add a face blend of 5% and then run through this split up render again. Gonna do the full frame range. I'm just gonna do a new deterministic face blend 5. Just gonna do a new render of the whole thing there. Make sure to generate jobs, just split by 2 again because it's a low res render. So yeah, we can see we've got all the jobs created again. I'll just run through that. So you can see these tool thin tiles. This is because we're splitting a square into 2. So hopefully that demonstrates the tiling that's going on there and the fact that it's going from frame 1 to 150 for each tile. So yeah, I just found this checkbox before this stream, so I wanted to share it. And then I kind of want to stress test this idea a little bit more by seeing if we can turn on determinism for more complex particle systems. Just, yeah, give this a go. So the naming convention here is just saying what face we're on and what tile we're on. 0, 0, and then 1, 0, because that's horizontal or vertical and then horizontal. So we're just going to have a 0 and a 1 there. Unreal always starting with arrays as 0. And once it does all those, it's doing this final stitch pass. So it's taking all the tiles, stitching them together as a final job. This is the only other thing that could stress your GPU, but the weight of just stitching flat images together is way less than rendering a whole Unreal scene at a really high resolution. So yeah, this tiling is super cool. So let's see how this one's looking. So yeah, with that face blend, it's even cleaner, which is really nice. Just pause it in some places, see if we can see any artifacts. Another thing is that I haven't set these sprites to always be facing the a point instead of each camera face. So that's another thing, since these are sprites, could cause an issue, but I'm not actually seeing too much of an issue. But you do get the sense that these are facing this way. You know, the skewing is kind of different for each sprite, which is not really what you generally have with sprites, but the camera facing mode can improve that. So we could look at that next. But yeah, already so much better with this determinism trick. So that's really cool. Let's just see if the sprite facing could improve this even more. In our Niagara system, what you can do is facing mode, face camera. So since we're using multiple cameras, it could be better to do face camera position, perhaps. You can kind of play around with which one of these works best. I'm just going to run that again because I'm interested. Maybe we could do a few less frames. Do 75. And generate those jobs again. So if we can get a test out a bit quicker. Yeah, I didn't realize it was just a case of this checkbox, so I'm really excited to have found this. I thought making particle systems deterministic would have been a lot more tricky, but we'll see as we get into some more complex stuff. Maybe like spawn bursts and things like that might be different. But I've got a fair few different particle systems in this to test out. So let's see. Cool, we're on the final stitch already. Obviously this is only a 2K, so nice. Ooh, so I'm catching a couple problems here. Maybe this camera facing was actually not as good for this system. Face camera position. Interesting. For the most part it's okay, but like this one here. Oh, that's actually just passing through the geometry, I think. Because it is literally a sprite. So it's interesting. Face camera was actually working out better for me. That does lie on the face line. Could even be a distance culling issue. see, what about if we don't do tiling? You see the difference. So we know it's not to do with the tiling, it is to do with the sprite settings. We know it's looking better in that previous. So custom facing vector, don't know what dictates that facing vector. Falls back to face camera if there's no particles sprite facing. So how do we add a particle sprite facing attribute? Oh wait, would it be in here? Facing an alignment. Okay. Alright, so we could, I guess in theory, add this. Add the camera to this. But I'm not going to go into that this time because, you know, this was looking passable, I feel like, with the default of what's the default? Okay, automatic. Cool. So yeah, let's leave it at that. So then we can add the rest of the system back. I feel like this isn't really isn't something that requires determinism. Let's see. Let's keep that 75. Those two. 75. Yep. Adding the orb. Kind of just looks like more of a mesh. It's gonna have some near clipping and stuff going on, so probably represent other issues, but I mean I wonder what the material is doing there. I don't know if that's, can't really tell if that's different every time. It's kind of a different thing to a particle problem. It's just more of a mesh spawned by my Niagara system. So I might try a different, whole different system after this. You know, we'll just turn everything on, turn it all to deterministic after this one. So yeah, it's not causing any, I guess, am I even on a seam here? So yeah, I feel like that material is doing the same thing every time. So maybe it's lucky that we're lucky that that is a kind of deterministic noise in that material. So it's interesting. Yeah, I'm sure we would see some. I'm sure that would be crossing some seams. So that's cool. Let's just throw everything at it then. See what happens. Remember, we've just got a slight face blend as well, which is probably helping this a fair amount. So when you have a face blend, it's going to raise the resolution a bit because it's sort of doing an extra edge for each face, so then it can blend between. And then obviously as you get up to really high resolution, that face blend becomes massive. So some people are doing renders of with like a 20% face blend while rendering at, you know, 12K, 14K. So 20% of 14K is what, 700 more pixels? Oh no, totally wrong. 2,800 more pixels. Sorry, yeah, a fifth of. Near enough. So, you know, you're adding another 2K on if you do a 20% face blend at 14K. So face blend, as you get up to these really high resolutions, can be really dangerous again. So yeah, this is also looking pretty seamless, which is great. Tiled render, complex Niagara system, no visible seams. Apart from this, which is near clipping just because of the mesh. So we do have a near clip plane value in the 360 camera. So we just have to turn that down. So I'm going to try another particle system. This is quite cool. I want to see if this is really doing the job. And to get more particles here, I enabled some plugin. I think it's like Fluid. Oh, not even. Oh, sorry, Chaos. Chaos Niagara gives you more particles when you open up that Niagara system thingy. And I have copied some over from some like free for the month content as well. We've got loads in here. Let's do something like that. With this. Something really with a lot going on. That's quite cool too. Whoa. Hard to pick. Let's just do. Oh, that was cool too. Really hard to pick. Let's do. I feel like that one's got a lot going on. I don't know if it really does, but it's a bit more smoky, so it's interesting to test. Probably something different going on. Oh, it's just a flash. That's cool. I guess it's a shorter render to test out. So let's just turn on determinism for all of these. Can we do it like this? Yeah, great. Oh, no, that didn't work. Okay. Just looking at this, it's definitely the same every time. That's so cool. I didn't think it would be that simple to make particle systems deterministic. That's super cool. Let's do another render. Get rid of all these jobs. Let's go explosion. And what? How many frames were we looking at there? That's not in frames, is it? Can we change that? So that it gives me frames instead of time. Could we just do that in the blueprint quickly? Like, so make a variable. What is it? Frames to seconds. I kind of want seconds to frames, don't I? Seconds to frames. So 0.92 was it? I don't know. What? Set frames? Oh, should I be a way to do this? It's probably a bit too long. If you got a reference to the level sequence. And then said get duration. And then what's that? Time. No, it didn't print it. Never mind, let's just guess. So it's about 30 frames. Let's do 40. And generate jobs. Or we should turn that near clip plane down, but let's see what it does. I'm gonna try and do one more and then I gotta get off. But yeah, determinism, super happy with how this is looking so far. Could save so much time. I've heard a lot of people having problems with Niagara systems and this tiling thing, so I think it's well worth checking out before you start. Well, I mean, it's not even that hard to change once you've already started, so just knowing about it seems really, really cool. Let's see if it throws up any last minute problems, as it probably will. Probably near clipping, if there is. Oh, not that one. Explosion. Oh. Okay. The particles are looking okay. this explosion thing is just based to some tiles. So interesting. Again, I think that's not really a particle thing. I think that's more of a mesh thing because this system that's spawning it's spawning a big sprite. So yeah, that's like sprite facing stuff. Again, we can look a bit more into that vector for sprite facing, saying that as a variable. Let's do one more. And then also, I guess there's plugins like Block and things like that, like interesting Niagara plugins that we could look at and see if we can break this idea with those. Like this is gonna be like a sprite again. Something that might be a bit different. Like look at these. That's cool. So it's got like ribbons and other stuff. It's amazing how good these look really small, and then okay, so that's mostly just a mesh. So again, yeah, they look good really small, but then you realize they are just like made up of really simple components. Yeah, let's put the camera inside this. Again, like mesh. Let's bring the near clip plane down and just do this determinism. And then I've really got to jump off, but yeah, super happy to have started looking into this. It's quite exciting to think that because a lot of people are like can't do particles with tiling, but this is looking promising. Stick to that 35, 40 frames. Yes. Generate those. It's probably just going to be stupidly bright light, but interesting to test. Again, it's like this Niagara system is mostly just spawning a mesh. So like what else is out there like Niagara systems wise? So you got like I'm sure there's like a flock thing. But you know, it's again just going to be particles, but each particle is a quite advanced little fish or a mesh or something. But yeah, interesting to see if it is a Niagara system, then surely it's got a deterministic checkbox. So interesting. Might have to get that and test that out. Yeah, let's check this last one. Bit of a stupid test because I'm just inside a big sphere, but yeah, let's test out something a bit more particly next time. Yeah, interesting. Thanks for sticking around, those who have, and we will be checking out more interesting immersive rendering tips. Yeah, that was determinism. See you next week, and we'll do perhaps going back to the drone thing, perhaps more Niagara tips. But yep, have a good one.